Okay, so welcome to the World of Ability Podcast Network, and welcome to Ability Now, the podcast where we celebrate resilience, explore faith, and embrace the diverse spectrum of human abilities. Hosted by CeCe Carr, an inspiring advocate and comedic storyteller, and the show airs on the first Saturday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern. In each episode, CeCe shares her personal journey and insights on overcoming challenges, particularly focusing on her own experience with a critical water source disruption and how it intersects with her daily life and well-being. With a firm belief in the power of faith over fear, CeCe delves into how spirituality and positivity play crucial roles in navigating adversity. Ability Now also shines a spotlight on the unique strengths and benefits of neurodivergent individuals. CeCe brings to the forefront the remarkable contributions and perspectives of those who experience the world differently, emphasizing how neurodiversity enriches our communities. And during CeCe, as she fosters a supportive space for listeners to gain inspiration, practical advice, and a deeper understanding of the diverse ways people experience and overcome life's obstacles. Tune in and let's embrace our abilities together. And we also have a special guest today. And so I'm going to bring in CeCe to kick us off here. So welcome, CeCe.
Hello, Emily. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Miles Wilson. He is a third year law student from Howard University. He is such an amazing person. I'm so excited to hear more about his personal experiences and maybe ask a few questions, law questions. So Miles Wilson, welcome to Ability Now.
Thank you so much for inviting me, CeCe. Great pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here. And this is my first time ever seeing you on camera. I missed you last time. So you're just such an amazing and handsome young man. So thank you so much for being so generous with us and being here. I have some questions, but would you like to share a little bit about who you are and what you do and everything else involving Howard and, your faith, everything?
Sure. So I'm a 3L at Howard Law. So last year, I decided to go to law school because I always enjoyed the art of problem solving, and just the sense of advocacy behind it that came with it, and being able to carry other people's problems and find a meaningful solution to them. So I would say that's kind of like the broad reason why I went to law school. I'm still seeking and finding out, the more narrow purpose every day behind it. I have interest in criminal law, trial, litigation, and just trial work in general. And yeah, law school has definitely been a life-changing experience for me, which was not expected. It's, because I don't know if it's the challenge behind it or just the dedication that's needed for it, but it just really changes, kind of like you really have to mature and switch the way you think once you enter law school, and it took me a while to adjust. I was in classes with people that were older than me, people with more experiences. Like I said, I went straight from undergrad, so I started law school at the age of 23. And yeah, it was tough. It's still tough. It's easier now because the hardest is behind. And yeah, and as someone who has ADHD, I think it made it even tougher. Um, for many reasons. I think because of the nature behind the field of law, um, you really need to. It took me. Law school really forced me to know my ADHD brain and how I function, how I think, the way I learn, the way I process information. I really needed to face that and really get learn that, and at the same time balance law school. So I think that also made my first year more challenging. And now as a 3L, I'm the treasurer for an organization. It's actually a nationwide organization called Atypical Law Students Organization. So it's the acronym is also. Also is in many different law schools, and what also does, it advocates for students with different not divergence, um, and basically facilitate accommodations for them. So accommodations can include um, more time on exams, maybe being able to take an exam in a single room and things like that. Um, so where I consider also to kind of be the voice on campus for the voiceless, because a lot of the time we can uh, we've noticed we can notice that people who are neurodivergent have a hard time, expressing what their needs are. So I think that that's what also is really about. And what I like the most about also is the fact that at the end of the day, it's a nationwide organization. So we have an impact in many different schools. And of course, each school has their own board and organization, but the idea and the purpose behind it is uh, uh, the same. So yeah, that's about it.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so much about yourself. I too am atypical, neurodivergent, and I recently learned about it. So it explained everything that I went through growing up because we didn't have also around to advocate for us when we went to college. And all I did was take classes and fail a bunch of them. And today, I count it all joy because if I wouldn't have had to go through that, I wouldn't have a testimony and I probably wouldn't have never met your father. And that is the amazing thing. Through all this process of life, I can see the good in everything. And I see that, even with neurodivergence or atypical, anything is possible. You're in law school. And all you did was adjust. Of course, you have, your amazing father to give you suggestions, and that is, that's awesome in itself. And I'm glad you came here to share about that experience because it gives me hope to where I can move forward in life. I don't have to be stuck. And now I know what it is, where before I didn't know what it was. I was just talking all the time. And people used to say, CeCe, you talk all the time. I said, I know, but it can turn out to be a beneficial factor if used in the right way to advocate for others who don't have a voice. So when I didn't have a voice, I was too afraid to even say anything. Now I am experiencing the power of God who's giving me courage to speak up when normally I wouldn't say nothing. I wouldn't even be doing a podcast, let alone host one and have confidence to say I can share about myself. I don't have to be ashamed. I can be grateful that God has brought me this far, and we're going to see greater exploits because we have this different way of thinking, because it helps so many people. Even Emily has been a support for me. She's the podcast host. I call her the podcast superstar, but that's okay. She does what she does for me, and I'm so grateful because I couldn't have done it by myself. And you see, this group is going to be able to grow because you showed up, you're sharing, and you have a background in law, because so many people who are neurotypical have problems and they cannot work it out. But someone like you that's going or is going to be finishing law school next year will have a conversation or way of being with them to have compassion and to understand and represent in a way where it helps people. You're providing a service that's going to advocate on behalf of other people that would not have no voice, or they would have just been pushed to the side, over talked. You know how people run you over in conversations. I used to get run over a lot. And I used to say, hey, and because I'm still gathering my thoughts, or if I didn't respond quick enough, then they would be so impatient with me and just say, forget it, CeCe. And so now I am so grateful. We have lots of platforms where we can speak about atypical, or because we just think differently. There's nothing wrong, and I don't see anything wrong. I actually see it as an added value, because I started researching how many problems that are solved by atypicals because they think outside the box. And even finding things in the law. God has a way of allowing people who seem like they have less to allow them to have more because of the power of God. And that's what I am seeing this day. It's not even my problems. It's the problem solver, which is God, who is allowing everybody to move forward in life if they, got their hands up. So I have my hands up today, and I'm going to continue to move forward. And I heard that you were in an accident. So can you share about that experience? Your dad told me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm okay. First of all, it was it was scary. And I lost my car, but thank God I was not at fault. So insurance will be taking care of this. But so I was basically traveling in DC, going south. And the driver who hit me was going north on the same road, and basically he attempted to make a left when I had the green light. I guess he didn't see me. He hit my rear end, and my car did a 180. But before doing a 180, I hit another car, and that car hit another car. So yeah, it was, the car, like I said, is totaled. But I think a good example of neurodivergence here, and when my ADHD kicked in, I was so, I kind of lost focus during the accident. So I didn't do my due diligence, I should say. For example, so the person who hit me, they stayed in the car. And at first I was thinking, we need to get their insurance information. And because I was distracted because of what just happened. And then I saw that he was in his car. I was like, okay, I'm not going to walk over to the road and ask him for his insurance information. Whenever he comes out, or if he comes out, I'll do that. And then I was there for about 2 hours, by the time the police came and got people's information or whatever. And it's at the end that I realized, wow, when I left, I never got the person's insurance information, because I guess I was absent-minded at the time. But it is a key. It is important information to get, in order to file a claim against his insurance. So long story short, it was okay because that's what the police is for. When they come, they do a police report, and regardless of any party obtaining people's information, that's what the police report is for. They just collect all that information, and whoever needs it, needs it. So, long story short, I was able to obtain his information. I just had to wait for the police report to come out. But I'm saying all this to say that, it's in the little things like this when ADHD can be costly, I will say. It can cost you things. It can almost like you can make mistakes in certain, and they're very subtle mistakes, but the way I see it is like mistakes add up, and it ends up being costly after a while. So just the way I see it is ADHD just requires someone to be more disciplined mentally to really make sure that they have a system and a routine, a way of thinking that is just works for them. I like steps. I like to-do lists. I like dates. I need to have things written down. I definitely cannot work without a to-do list, cannot work without an agenda, cannot work without a calendar. So yeah, I think it's a lifelong process, lifelong learning, and you just have to get to know your brain and see what works for you.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you're doing so much better and you didn't get tragically injured. And thank you so much for sharing about that. Because, as you can see, all this stuff here, all over the place. But I'm going to get organized, and I do write everything down. And I've got lots of lists. And, just going through the process and not being afraid of letting anyone see the process. All this is going to be cleared up. And I know, because I walk in victory now. I don't walk in shame of what I got going on, because that's just the outside. As long as I work on the inside and get my heart right and my thinking lined up with God's way of thinking, I know things will get better, because I made lots of mistakes. I can't even count them. And it's still okay, because I have a new day, new mercy today, new grace today, new possibilities, things to be grateful for. I don't have to do those mistakes that I did in the past. Before I didn't know, but now I know. Now systems to put in place. I'm using electronic devices now to help me. Well, before I couldn't even figure it out, let alone see what to do. And now that, I'm getting treated for the right diagnosis, because I actually was being treated for something that wasn't there. But now that I have the knowledge and the wisdom, I'm just so grateful that God put the people in my life at this time, because I don't know where I would be, and I'm just so thankful you decided to come here and share your story and share about the group and what it's doing. I had no idea about that group being in most universities, advocating for people who are atypical. And I never heard that name until I met you. So I'm atypical, and atypical means you just think differently. There's nothing wrong with it. And now I can do something with it. It's like stirring up the pot and making something better with the pot that we have, and put a little this and that, and, it turns out to be delicious. So these days I'm a foodie too. So sorry about that. But I don't have to worry about being obese no more, because I'm doing better. with the food thing. I don't have to be on no diet no more, by the grace of God. I don't have to lessen the amount of food because my brain is going all the time. So I needed more food and didn't even realize that I was getting bigger because I didn't have enough calories to sustain my body because my brain was going all the time. So that is one thing that gave me a big relief because I was always trying to lose weight by reducing the calories, cup of this, an ounce of this, an ounce of this, and I actually was starving myself. And so when you have a brain that goes a lot, that's one of your biggest energies is calorie expenditure is what you think about. So now that I'm able to adjust to it and say, hey, I can't be you eating that little bit 3 meals a day. I probably need 5. Sorry. Are you still there? And so I am so grateful that you came to share with us. And I have some more, I have some legal questions to ask. Do you mind since you're in 3L or 3Y?
3L, yeah.
3L, yay. So for an example, if you get in an accident, what do we need to do as people who haven't gone to law school? As a regular normal person.
So I'm gonna hit you with the typical lawyer answer. It depends. So it depends of a lot of things. For example, if first of all, if you're at fault or not. So let's say you're not at fault. Definitely what you want to do is go, first thing is get the person's insurance information. Don't be like me, but there's also safeguards to that. So I will say most importantly, call 911 and get a police report. Make sure the police is there. They take accounts of every party involved testimony, and that's it for that part. After that, I will say within 24 hours, you want to get checked out. The reason being is because injuries sometimes don't always manifest themselves immediately. It could happen a few days later or a few weeks, even sometimes a few months or years. And the idea behind that is that if you were to file a claim against the insurance, you want to have some type of paper trail that you went to get checked out shortly after the accident so that they can't say, well, you could have gotten injured in many other ways. We don't know what you've been doing after the accident. Maybe you worked out and you got injured by working out, but the sooner the better. That is basically it just reinforces your claim, gives your claim more credibility. And if you are at fault, what you want is, first of all, to not admit fault. You want, either way, you also want to call 911, get a police report, give your side of the story, and the person will also give their side of the story. And then it depends. It could go. It could go both ways. Sometimes, based on the facts that are given to the officer, he can't really tell whose fault it is. So that would be including the police report. And that's really none of your problem. You don't have to admit fault. It's not, it could definitely cost you in the long run, especially if the person injured. You can get sued, and then your testimony will be used against you. And sometimes things can be misconstrued and things like that. So you definitely want to be neutral, remain neutral, and definitely let your insurance deal with it. If they take responsibility, then they take responsibility. I mean, at the end of the day, you were at fault, but it's not something that, it's not a burden that you want to take on yourself. You know, that's why we have insurance and things like that. So yeah, and lastly, I want to say that to give some background onto personal injury and law, personal injury is very it's a practice area that lawyers love to take on in their firm. The reason being is because it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. First of all, this, you will always have clients. Accidents happen every day in the United States. Second of all, in law, well, I want to say specifically personal injury, you have two components to a case. You have liability, which is the first one, and then you have damages. The reason why lawyers like personal injury case, specifically with car accidents, is because liability is easy to prove. Liability is proven simply by the police report. Insurance usually do not argue against the police report. Whatever the police report says goes. So just by that, just by having a police officer come to the scene and write a police report, just that is already doing half of the lawyer's job. So basically the police in this case is proving liability for the lawyer. Second is damages. Damages are how much can the client get because of the accident. So there's multiple ways to quote unquote run up damages. First of all, they will send you to a physical therapist, and for you to go there until you are healed. After that, any disruption in your routine can be translated into damages. So for example, missed day of work, the insurance has to pay you back for that. Depending on what your salary is or your wage, they have to pay that back. If you had to take an Uber to go to physical therapy or to go to work, because now you don't have a car, insurance has to pay for that. So all these little components are damages that the lawyer takes notes of, make sure that you are reimbursed for, and they add, and of course it's scaled. You know, it's not just you being reimbursed for your expenses, it's also you being compensated for the fact that you just got into an accident and it disrupted your life, and you just need to be compensated for that. So they scale it. And yeah, it's a very passive case for a lawyer because they don't even have to meet you for it. Most of the time, they don't even have to go to trial for it. Straightforward. Most of the time, insurance decides to settle because they know that they will lose at trial, especially when the police report clearly says it was the other person's fault. It would be silly to go to trial for them. So yeah, that's kind of like the idea behind personal injury cases and law.
Wow, thank you so much for that explanation, or that, intensive description. Actually, I had one more question. Last week, our area was exposed to a chemical fire. I know if you heard of BioLab, we had a big fire in Conyers, Georgia, and a lot of us were evacuated. We couldn't get back to our homes. Now, in that case, some of us are at the Red Cross, like myself. So what do you suggest that individuals like myself who've never been evacuated before do?
Well, definitely, I will speculate because I need to know more about like the facts in the background and behind biolab, but I will definitely speak to an attorney because at the end of the day, you were evacuated at no fault of yours, and you could be compensated for that. There's always, the thing is, in cases like this, of course, biolab is not going to tell you, hey, if you sue me, you might actually win. You kind of like have to talk to an attorney and see if you have a case. And it really depends also if biolab if it's a government agency, first of all, or if it's private. If it's a government agency, most likely they will find a way to compensate residents without being sued, because suing the government is just a very different process than suing a private company. So it depends, but I will say, speak to an attorney about that and give them all the facts, how it's disrupted your life, and yeah, I will definitely go from there.
Wow. A lot of people, we don't know stuff like that because we're so, when you're evacuated, you're so intense on, oh, what do we need to do next? But these are all simple things that we can do to support our own well-being. And if you're neurodivergent, you're like all over the place, like I am. But I'm not going to let nothing stop me, because I believe that all things are possible through Christ who strengthens me. He's given me the power to overcome this little situation, because this is nothing for God to take care of. And I just have much respect for you, because you're being so generous with your time and with your knowledge. Do you have any questions for me?
Excuse me, I have a question. When Miles finishes, I have a question.
No, go ahead, Cindy. I was just gonna make a last minute comment.
Okay, well, let me ask the question and then you can wind it up. First of all, Miles, I haven't seen you since the time you stopped over my house to drop off some things, and you was younger, and now you're a grown man, full face, full beard. It's like I wouldn't have recognized you. And congratulations on another year, and you'll be a lawyer. Two questions I have. One is with ADHD. Was you on medication? And the reason I ask is because I have two sons. Michael, but I believe he has ADHD, but years ago, we didn't know anything about it. So neither one of them was diagnosed. But my other son, Eddie, was diagnosed as LD, learning disabled. And he was put like in a separate room so he could get more attention. Of course, it didn't help him with his esteem, because he felt different, than the other kids. So I was just wondering about the medication, if you was ever on it, and if you was, did it help you?
So yes, definitely. So I was diagnosed with ADHD back in 2018 when I graduated high school, and I didn't get on the medication until 2020. Yeah, like early 2020. The reason why I didn't want to go on the medication is because I was like, I don't want medication to lead my life, and I don't want to be dependent on it. And I've been doing it for so long without it. And I just had a wake up call, and I think it was God. The first wake up call is undergrad was very different than high school. It was more challenging. My grades weren't good. It was tough. It was tough to do work. I just felt like, the ADHD was definitely getting out of control. And the second is, I remember I was a part of Bond. Bond is Brothers on a New Direction. It's an organization of just males at URI where we bond, we spend time together and different activities, different events. And I remember I was a prospect at the time, so basically making my way in. And one of the other prospects shared his struggle with ADHD. He just got up, and I remember it was at a time when I wasn't doing well, school was tough. I didn't feel confident academically, and he just got up and said, like ADHD, I was struggling with ADHD for a while, and then I got on medication and it literally changed my life. And from that point forward, I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I should try this. Like, maybe this is what I need, Like, he's saying that changed his life. He's saying that he's a better student with it. So maybe it's something that could help me too. And shortly after, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it and see. And I went to the doctor, tried it. I've been on it ever since. Definitely ADHD medication has changed my life. I don't think I will be in law school without it. It's changed the way I study. It's just it works. Like it does the job, and you don't know until you try it. To be honest, so yeah, it's almost 5 years now that I've been on it, and I don't regret it at all. I think it was a sign from God to a sign from God to me, and while I don't intend to be on it forever, I using it now to kind of like get through the hard part of the career, the start of the career, kind of like getting to that position. And then I definitely, plan to just be my regular self eventually. And yeah, go from there.
All right. Thank you. I didn't realize, when my son was from the school diagnosed with LD, that it was anything atypical. I just thought he was just having some issues concentrating. He did used to like write instead of putting EDDY for Eddie, he'd write EBBY. But to him, he saw it as EDDY. That's when they picked up at first, and then they started testing him and said he was learning disabled. But thank you so much, Miles, for talking about this and giving of yourself to help me. I know my friend Doreen is on, and Stephanie was on. She did say she had to leave early, but thank you so much for being open with this. And I'm praying for you, and I know that you're just going to be a wonderful lawyer that people can go to with confidence and not think that lawyers have a bad rap. Like they're just in it for the money and this and that. But I know your dad, I know you, and you would be the type of lawyer that I would definitely want to go to. So I just pray for all your future endeavors. Thank you. And CeCe, thank you for having my on.
Of course. Oh, I have one more question for Miles. How do you study as a ADHD? Do you do an hour and you take off? Do 3 hours, take off, or what?
So that is something that I learned in law school. I use the Pomodoro technique. It has helped me. So Pomodoro is basically you put your timer on for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever works for you. I used to do 30 minutes. Now I brought it up to 45. And basically during that 45 period of time, you don't use your phone, you don't do anything but the work at hand. Like I even pause my timer to go use the bathroom. And I've noticed that like when you actually focus for 45 minutes, you can actually get a lot done. And you do that multiple times a day. And of course, then. What was that?
Oops. Sorry.
I don't know. Can
So
everybody,
yes,
can
I
everybody
was.
use them too? Go ahead.
Always. So I was saying that yeah, basically you do that multiple times a day, and then it just translates into a few hours of studying, and that's kind of like how I study. Now, in terms of substance, law school has its own way of learning, so you have to make outlines for each class. Each area of the law is slightly different. Um, it's a lot of case law, being able to apply what you learn to a new set of facts, um, and things like that. So it's still a learning process. I mean, I'm taking the bar next year, so obviously, I'm by that time I will have my learning strategies all set. But yeah, it was a learning process for me, definitely, and it still is.
Wow, that's good because I'm just newly diagnosed. So the medication was like an instant life changer for me. It's only been 3 months for me, but it was where before I couldn't do anything. Now you can actually read my writings. Before it was just scribble all over the place. And I would say to myself, how come I, did this? But that medication is like a wonder. And I too didn't want to take the medicine because I didn't want to be hooked on medicine. But this isn't something that you're hooked on. This is something that helps you focus when you need to focus. And if I would have had this in school, I would have been probably, I don't know, I could have been a chemist. But even so, it's never too late to go and become what we're supposed to be, because it's the experiences, the knowledge you gain along the way, the wisdom. I mean, you have so much wisdom to be your age, and you're very articulate. And that is so amazing. And you have a heart to serve and a heart to give. And so I just want to say thank you so much for being so generous. We still got about 7 more minutes.
I have a question.
I
have a comment. I have a comment. Sorry. I just wanted to say, when you said, that you set the timer for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and then everything else is shut off so that you can focus. I have to do the same thing when I go to read my Bible. Because if not, my cell phone can ring. I need that shut off. My house phone, I need to shut that off. I just need to be in a place of quiet, because my mind, I could be reading something, but I got thoughts, coming in from all places through my mind. So I have to have a quiet, focused place. So thank you for that. That I'm not the only one that does that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, yeah, of course. I think it's a psychology thing. Is the fact that that the timer is going to run out after, and after that you can take a quick break. But just the intent of setting a timer and knowing that, okay, I only have to do this for 45 minutes from now, and then I can do whatever I want. I can have a 10-minute break and this and that. I think it's what makes the time blocking a little bit easier to really focus and concentrate on.
Wow. How do you intertwine your relationship with God with everything that you do?
So that's a great question. It definitely was challenging my first year because law school was new to me, and I just felt like it required so much mind bandwidth. And in a way, I feel like my biggest mistake was that I wasn't able to balance my relationship with God in law school. And I learned after that, I started making time for God, and at the same time still being focused on my studies, and I received better grades. And I think one of the biggest lesson is that you have to learn when to rest in God. It's just as important. It's productive too. And I didn't see it as productivity before. I just saw it as like, oh, I'm away from the books right now. I'm not studying. I'm wasting time. But it's resting in God is important, and it's still a learning process for me. But now I feel like I definitely know and I'm aware that it's something that I need to do. Because just working is just doesn't take you anywhere.
Awesome. That's just a bit of nugget that our listeners could glean on, because without God, nothing is, without God, you can't do nothing. With God, everything is possible. And that's what I'm learning each morning. I make myself spend time in the Word, spend time praying. And I leave my prayers open-ended. So I just don't just pray in the morning. And then whenever, I'm saying, God, put it in my spirit to where I just pray all day, help me get through this, like help me be able to write a letter, help me to, traveling grace, help me to do what God wants me to do. And this is like along the way. It's not like, oh, in the morning I do it, let me do it at lunchtime. I remember just a couple of days ago, I was at a gas station warming up my food. And something told me, I know it was God, to get down on my knees in public and pray while my food was warming up. And I said, okay, I was kind of scared because, my flesh was like, people will be looking at you. But another conversation was going in my head. The Muslims don't have a problem praying anywhere. They go lay down. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I did it. It wasn't that bad. I put a little napkin down on the ground. And I said, Lord, thank you for giving me courage to pray and not worry about what people were thinking about me. And when I got up, I had a good day. And one of the managers saw me and he nodded his head like, okay. And I was like, okay. But, at first I was like, no, I can't do that. But now I'm getting more courage to live out my faith, not just talk it out, but live it inside of me every day and be talking to God, not just verbalizing, but in my head, listening and knowing, is God telling me what to do or is it me, But the more I spend time with God, the more I know it's him working inside of me, because all this other stuff, I can't manage myself. And I'm so grateful that you came on this evening to share this. Hopefully we can do this another time. I know I'm asking for a lot, but it's going to help so many people to listen and encourage them, especially the atypicals, because I'm on the endeavor of learning sign language, like hello, thank you and all that. I want to go to school for that. No, not I want to. I am going to go to school because I learned that only 2% of the non-hearing group are saved. How are they going to experience someone being saved if we do not learn the language and speak to them and show them God from our life? And how do we show experiences? Through how we live. And so learning sign language works another part of my brain. And since I'm atypical, it's probably going to work really well for me since I talk a lot. I'm going to use the sign language to help me monitor, not speaking with my words so much, but speak with my hands and my thoughts. So again, Miles, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time, and thank everyone else, Sandy and whoever else was on the line. Thank Emily, thank the ability Now Network for allowing us the platform to have this conversation. We're going to have a link, and I'm going to share it so that we can share it with other people, because there was so many nuggets of wisdom that you shared today, Miles. And congratulations on you finishing strong. You'll be an attorney next year, and I'll be celebrating with you. And hopefully I'll be able to sow into you in a big way for the time you share with us today. Do you have any last thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for inviting me. This was actually very refreshing, good break from studying. And yeah, I will definitely appreciate if you could send me the link. I'm not sure when I'll be able to do it again, but I would love to do it again. So yeah, let's stay in touch.
Thank you so much. I don't know if Emily's still here. Emily, you still here?
Yeah.
Oh, did you want us to shut off right at 6:01?
Whenever you guys are done.
Are we done, everyone? Well, we're done. Thank you so much. And this is the Ability Now Network. Thank you, Emily. You're the superstar. Thank you, Miles.